Hi, this is Jenna.
And this is Heather.
And this is Conspiracies Unlocked with a special news update on February 22nd, 2023. We just found out last Wednesday about the Ohio train derailment, and that happened on February 3rd. So why did it take us 12 days to find out about the Ohio train derailment, which I think is a conspiracy in itself because I watch the news every morning. And I heard nothing. I found out from a friend that used to live in Ohio about it.
Well, during that time, if you remember, they were talking on the news so much about the China spy balloon, and they were not really putting anything out about the Ohio disaster.
No, because the next day, they shot down the weather balloon. And they were worried about the big earthquake that occurred.
Oh, yeah. So I feel like it's just a misdirection. Not to say that didn't really happen with, obviously there was really a spy balloon, but why not cover both stories? They're both breaking newses. Why are you not going to cover something that's going to impact us probably more than even the spy balloon? Like, yeah, they're getting information, but this is directly impacting humans, wildlife, like the planet.
American citizens are being displaced right now, and they're talking about an earthquake that's on the other side of the world.
Exactly.
They should be up there with it, not trying to discredit the severeness of the earthquake or anything like that's horrible, but we should be aware of what's going on in our own nation. So why is it being covered up? Could it be because of the way that the government handled it was so fucked up?
Well, we're going to get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So then, after that happened, on Tuesday the 14th, there was a truck flipped over in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that, too.
Yeah, and that had chemicals in it. It had liquid nitric acid. And then on Thursday, February 16th, another train derailed in Michigan, which happens to be 180 miles from the Ohio train derailment. And they're both by the Norfolk Southern Train Company.
It's the same train
company. It's the same train company. Yeah, and then, so what I want to know, okay, so I have questions I'm curious. My first question is this like the weather balloon, where we had the big weather balloon and then all of a sudden we saw all these little UFOs going around? Mm-hmm. And so we saw the big train derailment. Mm-hmm. Are we now seeing more of this, other catastrophes, because now we're paying attention to it? Because I haven't heard about any other UFOs being shot down, sighted, no other weather balloons, nothing else, when in that week, in the first week of February, there was like 5 different UFOs going on in Alaska and Canada, all over the place, and now we're seeing all these trucks and spillage and chemicals everywhere.
That's why I really think that not to say that didn't happen with the UFOs and the weather balloon. We know that happened, or the spy balloon, whatever they want to categorize it as. But to me, it's just misdirection, misinformation, propaganda, in a sense, just to hide the facts of what's really happening.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, how about the fact that the weather balloon was going over Ohio, or had just passed Ohio, when the train derailed?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about where the weather balloon was.
Yeah, because it's February 3rd, and the weather balloon was shot down on the 4th. And then you think about later on, and that is around 200 miles from where in East Palestine in Ohio, where the train was derailed.
Yeah.
The UFO went down. They shot down the UFO in Lake Huron.
I wonder if there's some kind
there
of connection.
Has to be a connection. And then it's all next to so the Michigan one didn't have any hazmat spills. 20 cars were derailed. 19 were empty, and then one had agriculture in it, so it was like not a huge deal. But this...
No, but that is a big deal. Agriculture.
Yeah, but it's only one car worth.
How much can one
I
car
don't know.
hold?
I feel what kind of agriculture? Was it like corn, or was it like chicken and cows and shit? I don't know. So the Michigan one was in Van Buren Township in Detroit, and it derailed at 8:30 a.m., 50 miles from Flint, Michigan.
Oh, gosh. And Flint, Michigan, they've already had their share of water just disasters and poisonous water. I mean, their water has been poisonous since what year? What'd you say?
2014.
2014.
Yeah. And then, so the... Yeah, I just think it's so weird that the weather balloon was passing over and all these things are all connected around the same time in that small concentrated area. There has to be something more to it. I don't know. So anyways, that was my like weird, we got to cover this because in my head I'm like, what's really going on?
I think every American citizen right now is thinking, what the fuck is going on?
In America, in general.
Just in general, all of these things happening, it's just like, we need to get into it.
So let's focus on the Ohio timeline first.
Okay.
On February 3rd.
Okay, so what I gathered was just before 9 p.m. on February 3rd, when a Norfolk Southern train left the tracks while traveling from Madison, Illinois to Conway, Pennsylvania, it actually had 38 cars that derailed and a fire ensued, damaging 12 other cars, and this is according to the National Transportation Safety Board. There were 20 cars carrying hazardous materials, of which 11 derailed. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot of hazardous materials. Residents were evacuated due to the threat of possible explosion. Because at that time, they didn't know.
They didn't even know what was in it, right? Like they didn't know what would happen if it could explode and how far. And they were talking about it as it being like a miniature, not Hiroshima, but
like a bomb, like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
So, well, they did know what was in them, but I don't think like immediately like the town didn't know, but like the authorities did know that the 5 that were breached was filled with vinyl chloride and sending hydrogen chloride and phosphagen, I believe I said that right, a toxic gas into the air. And of course, it still is not known about the long-term impact of the spill. Like, we don't know, and we'll get into that in a little bit, what we do know so far about that. But so 2 days later, on February 5th, the National Transportation Safety Board, Michael Graham, had said that the accident was possibly due to mechanical issues on one of the rail car axles. Mechanical
we can
issues.
Figure out why and where they went wrong with that. And then on February 6th, 5 rail cars were drained, and then they decided to burn the unstable toxic chemical cargo. So they decided to set it on fire. So what's that going to do to the fucking air?
I mean, I guess they wanted to set it on fire because, like you said, they were afraid of an explosion.
So they would just have a controlled explosion and a controlled atomic bomb? Cool. Okay. That's exciting. So, February 8th, then, Governor Mike DeWine says that residents can come home because it's safe. And you can even drink the water.
Sure, buddy.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't really sound very accurate that he would say the water is safe to drink. Especially because of all of the wildlife that was found floating in the water, the fish dead.
3,500.
I think they said 10 miles down the river. There was already 3,500 fish, and probably not just fish. Like, think about everything else in the water. There's like all kinds of plants.
There's a whole ecosystem in there.
But you could see the fish floating up. Over 35,000 fish.
3,500.
3,500, sorry. Just in the immediate area of the crash. That's not even like the long-term effects. So
then on February 10th, the EPA says that Norfolk Southern is liable for all expenses, and they had said that they will take liability for the cleanup. On February 13th, the EPA tested 291 homes in the evacuation area and said that all the homes are good, and but they still have 181 homes to go at that point. And then on February 14th, the NTSB said 20 cars had hazardous material, 10 of them derailed, 38 cars total derailed, and the fire destroyed an additional 12 cars. So that was like their official statement. 11 days later, that was it. And their theory is that there was a wheel bearing overheated and when the wheel bearing. So I had to explain this to my 6-year-old this morning because we were watching the news. Like I said, I do watch the news every morning while we're like just getting ready for school and work and everything. I flip on the CBS News, and it's just local news or whatever. So they were talking about this finally, and a picture of a train derailed. This train that was derailed came up, and my son was like, "What happened? What is that?" And I was like, "Aww. Well, sweetie, that is a train that derailed because," and he's really good with cars. He knows like all the pieces of parts, because the little ball inside of the wheel, the ball wheel bearing thing, has to go around, and if it doesn't go around, then the wheel doesn't go around, and then if the wheel stops, then the back cars will keep going and then push the rest. Yeah. So I was explaining like how that would happen.
Yeah, it's almost like it turns out like a brake almost.
Yeah, it's like the one breaks and the others like ding and like go through all weird. So, and then flip over and everything. So that's how I explained it to him, and I was like, and the government was being dumbasses and decided to set everything on fire. He's all, why would they do that? And I was like, I don't know, sweetie. They're idiots. But I don't trust them. And they say it's safe to go back. And he's all, back where? And I'm like, never mind.
Yeah, I mean,
I had a whole conversation this morning because I knew we were recording today, so I already had it on my mind. Like,
and the crazy thing is like they say that it's okay to go back and everything is safe, but how do they explain the 3,500 fish and 12 species that had died in the streams just near there? That's just that they know of.
And they're trying to explain like, oh no, that has nothing to do with it. They came out later and said that it had it's fine. So before we get into the environmental impact, so to go back to the wheel bearing,
I want to know more about that.
Okay, so the employees were concerned already with the excessive length and weight. So there's 151 cars total that thing was pulling.
Yeah,
which seems so excessive, but
wasn't it 2 miles long?
It was 9,300 feet long, and a mile is 1320 is a quarter mile, so maybe a mile and a half.
Okay, I read it was approximately 2 miles.
Probably a little under 2 miles, and it was 18,000 tons. So that means that it was 36,000 pounds. 18 and I'm not mathing well. I think
that's
36.
Okay.
36,000.
I believe you. You guys can do the math on your own.
Yeah, a ton is just 2,000 pounds. So just times 18,000 times 2. So even the old FRA administrator, which is the Federal Railroad Administrator, was not happy to see a train with 80 or 90 cars. And this was almost twice as long as it was supposed to be.
So they were already going over regulations.
Way over. And I'm sure that they were going way over just to save on some money, because could it be because of the crazy recent inflation that's almost doubled on everything, including steel, in the past year, or tripled on steel actually? And these are steel, they should be steel wheel bearings. And so they're trying to save on money on that, not only on the parts and material, but they're also trying to save money on just getting the product to where it's going. So they're hiring less employees, they're moving more stuff, they're doing all this to help maybe the consumers or just themselves. I mean, this could go either way. Greedy corporation, or really just trying to help get the job, the lowest bidder type thing, be the cheapest. And that's how to overload. Just get it done. How much would it have cost just to do 3 or 5 trips instead of doing all in one load?
They're not going to want to do that because they're going to want to do it the cheapest way possible, and that's what they tried to do, obviously, and it failed. Yeah,
and they're supposed to check the wheels and do check every wheel, check everything, every 200 miles. They're supposed to check, just a basic safety check, run around.
They have to stop.
So that would help with the overheating if they fucking stopped at least.
Yeah, they have to stop for a minute, check everything, and then they can continue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when a trucker has to stop and get weighed and at the weigh stations and stuff.
And I wonder if they missed their stop and maybe the wheel bearing wouldn't have overheated, because obviously if it's moving, it's going to get hotter. If you stop, then it'll have a chance to cool down. I mean, I don't know. That's an extra little theory. They would have to have some kind of
log about if they did actually do their stops or not.
But they could lie about those.
Yeah, they can falsify documents.
Yeah, it's not, especially right now. So they had started to use the precision scheduling railroad bearings. They got them from PSR, Precision Scheduling Railroading, and it was intended to increase the efficiency and reduce costs. And they were made in 2019, so they've been using them for quite some time. But you have to think, during 2020, 2021, they really didn't start using these a lot until probably this past year because of COVID. They started using 2019, and then it was like everything was shut down.
Everything was shut down for a long
so
time.
Nothing was coming in. Nothing could even, like, the ports and everything. People were just stuck. Remember, like, everything was stopped. You couldn't buy things. Like, there was just nothing.
Yes.
Because they had to wait, the ships had to wait at port for 2 weeks to get the COVID off of the ships.
Oh, they were just sitting out in the cargo ships. Forever.
Yeah, it was so crazy. I saw them up in Huntington Beach. You could see about 40 of them. Just lined up, all these cargo ships just lined up. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen, and they're still going. That's just the beginning of the end of the line. And that's what I could see. And where the port is still like 50 miles up. It was the most insane thing that I'd ever seen. Anyways, so
it's not something that I would have thought I would ever see really happening.
So get this, as of December 2022, so a month before this shit went down, NPR decided to run longer trains and decrease staff by 28%.
Wow,
and then because of
the economy,
within all the nations, this is the 7th largest freight railroad.
In all the nations?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's all to decrease the cost, which means less inspections, higher risks. It's 60 seconds or less. So they have 60 seconds or less to inspect one freight car. So they have a minute to run around and check for everything.
That's not enough time, especially when you're talking about almost 2 mile long freight. So
you're telling me
train?
That they're stopping every 200 miles, give or take a few miles, stopping and spending probably then for 151, that would be 151 minutes.
I guess that
would be 2 hours. Yeah, it's 60 seconds.
But that would, like you said, that would give time for the bearings to cool down.
But do you really think they're going to 2 hours, over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 151 minutes? I guess that's if one person's doing it. There's probably 2 people on board now. So, really, they're going to sit there every 200 miles.
And it's really not even, it sounds like a long time, but it's really not when you're inspecting every single one.
Yeah, it just seems so...
You're just looking real quick. What can you really...
I don't know.
That's even if they did it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what really, really, really happened. So then, get this. In the Norfolk Southern owns the train and railroad, the train that we were talking about.
Yes.
And right now it does not currently employ any signalmen. Signalmen specialize in the maintenance of hotbox detectors. Did you know that there's a hotbox device on every fucking train?
No, I did not. I didn't even know this position existed.
And the hotbox devices are supposed to prevent this specific thing from happening. The hotbox is a device that is on the tracks that alert the train crew if a wheel bearing or axle is getting overheated.
Wait a minute, and they don't have this anymore?
No, the signalmen, no.
Well, yeah, because the signalmen, it's probably exactly the way it sounds. They're going to signal, hey, there's a problem over here.
And so, what happens is that it's like a synthetic recording goes over to the crew to be like overheating, pull over, something.
Alert,
something. Signalmen now only work on government-mandated tests as opposed to the routine care. So, the signalmen are specialized in the maintenance of the hotbox. So, they'll go around. So, that hotbox must have been broken. Or something. And it's on the rail. And Norfolk Southern owns the rail and the rail too.
So they're
it's like Monopoly. Remember the train tracks? Isn't that one of the things? You want the SNR train and the railroad? Yeah. So isn't that in fucking sane?
That's fucked up.
Okay, so really, that's all the mechanically stuff about the train and all the facts and knowledge about that. But what I wanted to talk about really quick was that the government decided to burn this bitch down. Like, what the fuck? Do you remember, like, 50 years ago they did that and it's still burning in a city that's down below? They wanted to, it was a coal mine city.
I don't remember that, no.
I just thought of it right now. And they just had a thing on Netflix, like a documentary or something about it. And it's about, they had, it was a coal mine and there was just like a little bit of coal left. So they were like, well, fuck it. Let's just burn it off just to be done with this, like, mine or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And for 50 years, it has been glowing. They've tried everything, but I guess that the coal mine went further than they thought. And so it just keeps burning, and it still is. And the city is literally, like, dilapidated, and it's, like, falling into itself now because it's, like, some parts of the ground are 900 degrees.
Oh,
so
wow.
Everybody's had to leave now. But up until a few years ago, they're still living there, and they've tried everything but, like, just pouring gallons, like millions, trillions of gallons, like, just hoses and hoses of water to get it to stop. But it will never go out. It's just continuing forever. It's just always kindling down there, always glowing.
That's insane.
So they already know this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to decide to do this and make this big-ass cloud in the air that looks like we're being killed by
and
something.
Wasn't it a 200-mile radius?
That you could see, like, the cloud, or the cloud was over a 200-mile radius. Like, that's the
huge.
whole fucking state of Ohio.
Yeah, that's insane.
200 miles,
and it's just going to keep spreading out as it dissipates, but it's going to just keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah, so what does that have on the effect of the air and everything else?
So the risk of the chemicals that pose to the humans from the air exposure are the high levels of vinyl chloride, which is actually classified as a human carcinogen. In the air, it has been linked to central nervous system effects, and the chronic exposure has been shown to cause liver damage, including a rare form of liver cancer. And this is according to the EPA.
Wow.
When vinyl chloride burns, it decomposes into hydrogen chloride phosphagen. And the phosphagen is highly poisonous.
So the EPA has said this before the train derailment.
This is a known fact that
it's
already
highly
poisonous. And it was actually used extensively in World War I as a choking agent, while hydrogen chloride is irritating and corrosive to any tissue in which it comes contact with.
Wow.
So think about that. I mean, this is like tear gas.
But then isn't the EPA also the people that are saying it's safe to go back?
Well, yeah, but they're contradicting themselves.
Well, of course they are.
And yes, not to mention the adverse effects on wildlife as well as domestic animals. More than 20 families as of February 13th took their pets to the veterinarian, and where they were actually diagnosed with vinyl chloride poisoning.
No way.
Yeah.
So but didn't they evacuate with their animals?
Well, there was about 500 people reportedly that stayed in the area and did not evacuate. Yeah. And I'm sure that not everyone can evacuate all their pets. I'm sure a lot of people tried. Just like in any disaster, there's always,
pets left behind to fend for themselves. Yeah, just in case.
So that's just already affecting, the animals, the people right now, and then it's not even the long-term effects of, they said that these substances cause cancer in the liver, and who knows what else.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I wonder how they got it, if the animals got it like through like airborne, or if it was in their water, like their tap water.
Yeah, or maybe, if they live close to the water, maybe, the animals go down and, I could see like a dog going down and drinking from the lake right there, or a little stream or something, and it getting in the water, and the fish are dying. The
plants, anything. Like, dogs eat like grass or whatever. Yeah.
And also, there's actually a report of a 6-week-old beef calf that died on the 11th in the area. This was actually 2 miles from East Palestine.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and because it was a suspicious death with the timing and everything. They took tissue samples. They sent them to the Ohio Department of Agriculture and Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory to see if the cause of death can be determined. And they have not released the results as of yet. Really? But it's highly probable that it is from the toxins.
On the other side of that, I heard the governor and everybody being like, no, it was just random that the cow died, trying to be like, come home, it's safe, we're good.
Well, the whole thing with that is, that is going to affect the food supply in the chain, because the department...
If it is in there, the meat, they're just going to have to kill all the cows, right? Or get them all better. They won't kill them all, I'm sure.
I don't know what they can do.
I don't know. That's so fucked up. It's like a chemical warfare on Ohio.
Well, yeah, but it's going to spread to the whole United States, because they're saying that they are trying to assure the Ohioans that the food supply is safe and the risk to livestock remains low. Yet, I'm sure that's not the only calf that died.
Yeah. And then the whole river thing, it goes, the Ohio River connects to the Mississippi River that goes all the way down. And what they were saying about that was that the river is so massive that it just got diluted as soon as it went in. But obviously that's a fucking lie too, because of all the fishes. So they don't even know when they're lying or when they're telling the truth, I don't think. They just keep contradicting themselves.
Well, they reported that it was hundreds of miles away that the water was affected. Yeah. But then they kind of debunked that, saying, no, there's no evidence that the wildlife or livestock, other than the roughly 3,500 fish killed in the immediate area of the derailment, is causing any problem. But it's like, that doesn't even make sense. How could it just be in that concentrated area? I mean, yeah, I get that's where it mostly happened, but it's gonna spread out. It's just like if you are washing your car and you have the soap suds and you're gonna have majority of them there, but there's still gonna be some that spread out. That's why
down the road and everything.
A lot of times, like homeowners associations and stuff, they'll say like you can't wash your car at your house. I remember this happened at the condo, because it's like it's gonna get into the water system. So you're supposed to go to, I don't know, maybe where they have like a car place, like a car wash, and they have like a certain area where the stuff goes. Like oil, you can't just dump your oil after you do an oil change. Like there's
places
regulations
to do this, And apparently the government's regulation is let's just burn it and see what happens. Like what the fuck? So, with the government's reaction to just burn it, the government is supposed to be like bringing in help or something, right? Because if somebody like gets a cold in California, we get money to everybody.
Well, yeah, there's a whole like federal response. Of course, the federal government has to have some kind of response with anything like this. The Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who is a Republican, said the Department of Health and Human Services will help the state health authorities to set up a clinic in East Palestine to any resident, including those without insurance, and a doctor may visit them over any and all health concerns they may have. And they even were talking about the traumatic, like a mental health,
like PTSD type thing,
because it's
scary, yeah. And then depression, not being gone for X amount of days and not knowing if you can even drink the water.
Yeah.
That's a whole bad thing. And they probably are having PTSD because of Flint, Michigan and everything that they went through. What about FEMA? I heard that FEMA was not coming through for them. I saw that on someone's post from Ohio.
Well, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is also sending a team to East Palestine to support ongoing operations.
FEMA is now?
Well, it says in the report I have, it did say that it was a little conflicting, because I saw one report for DeWine stating that despite the daily contact with FEMA, the agency said Ohio is not eligible for assistance at this time.
Which is bullshit. Anytime that any large amount of residents is displaced, that's when FEMA should come in.
Exactly. And the agency typically responds to disasters that involve extensive property damage and obviously health concerns.
Well, there's not much property. I guess maybe that's the problem, is because there's not much property damage. I mean, yes, of course, to the train, but as far as like houses and like things like that, like people are displaced. If the air isn't good, then people have been displaced.
Well, I guess the report of that they were not going to go was the day after FEMA was not going to go.
And now they did.
But now, fast forward by the 17th, now they are going to be going, and FEMA is actually going to deploy a senior responsive official and an incident management assistant team to monitor and support the community. So I guess they spoke with President Biden, and Biden had requested federal assistance. So they had to go through the president.
Yeah, got it.
They had to go through the chain of command, obviously, but the state field requests to preserve the rights and to receive help from the agency if the state becomes eligible. So they're still kind of up in the air of what they're actually eligible for. They're going to go out there and they're going to start, but they're still working on the plan, I guess.
Yeah.
And that they do believe that the railroad should continue to pay, and that they're going to insist that they pay. Whatever damages has been caused, the railroad is responsible for the damages. And this is what the DeWine is saying. Did I say DeWine? DeWine is saying.
Yeah,
the governor. Yeah. So that gets into the whole lawsuits and liability questions. And that's a whole other thing. The EPA sent Norfolk Southern a general notice of potential liability letter on the 10th. So
but Norfolk Southern is already taking claim, and they're going to pay for the whole cleanup and stuff. So I can see why FEMA wouldn't really be. I mean, they need to help the people, but I think that they're actively like doing anything. They aren't really needed too much. Mm-hmm. They're not needed as like Hurricane Katrina, like they needed FEMA.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is just more...
Because that's like the property damage, like if they don't have a house to go to.
They don't have a house to go to, they don't have food, they don't have anything, they just lost everything that they own. But like these people still have all their items, nothing was damaged.
They just don't know if it's toxic or not, it's conflicting.
Yeah.
And then I did also see that so far there are already 4 class action lawsuits that have been filed against Norfolk Southern over the crash, alleging negligence, of course.
So, well, of course, I'm sure there'll be a lot more popping up once people actually get hurt, and not hurt, but internally need medical care, and their lungs and they can't breathe, and they're going to see probably
start getting liver cancer.
Yeah. In Ohio, they'll probably be in like 20 years like, were you living in the East Palestine area during this date and this date? If so, please contact us, and we can do it. We're doing a case lawsuit or whatever.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. What is it called?
Class action.
Class action lawsuit. I said case lawsuit.
Well, it is.
They're all cases. Do you want to hear about? Do you have more of legal stuff, or do you want to hear about?
Well, I was just gonna. I don't know what you were gonna get into, but I had some stuff on.
I have a conspiracy theory on it that's already popped up of that it was planned.
Okay, let me say the last part about Norfolk Southern's response to the community.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just real quick, they did a press release on the 14th, and the company said that it has donated $1.2 million to around 1,000 families to cover expenses they incur from their evacuations, and that it was in process of providing providing aid to local businesses. It is also said that so far they have completed more than 400 in-home air tests with the EPA, which have not shown any detections of substances related to the incident and does not indicate a health risk. But they've only done 400 homes, okay? That's still good, but...
Okay, well, wait.
400 homes.
I just did some math on this. 1.2 million.
For 1,000 families.
For 1,000 people. Do you know what that equates to?
No.
$1,200 a family. So that's like 5 nights at a hotel. Without food, without that. So at least they're getting something.
So they're able to, because they have to be displaced, so I guess they do have to compensate them.
Okay, but does that 1.2 include the cleanup or the testing? Because the testing is going to cost money. So
I'm not sure what it includes. I didn't get into it. I just saw those figures.
It sounds like so much, and then you like... actually break it down and you're like, oh no, that's not really that much at all. What the fuck?
Well, no, because they have donated other funds. So they've also donated $220,000 to the town's fire department to replace breathing apparatus for the firefighters. And then they also donated $25,000 to the Ohio Red Cross to support shelter set up in East Palestine. They're using the high school right now, and they've also provided over 100 air purifiers for residents who would like them. 100 does not seem like enough, but they're doing something.
And this is all out of different funds then. So
these are all, they've allotted different funds for different
so the 1.2 is definitely just going to the family. So every family got 1,200.
Every family got 1,200 of the 1,000. I don't know how they. I feel like there would be more than 1,000 people there, but maybe not.
1,000 households.
Oh, households. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000 households.
Per household.
Yeah.
What else?
So it's almost like the inflation check thing.
They pulled out of the town hall. Oh, that's the other thing. Okay, so on the 15th, everyone was kind of pissed off because they pulled out of the town hall with the local and state governments due to concern of growing physical threat. So they had like a huge... I remember seeing this on the news too.
Yeah, I remember.
They had everyone gathered and they were waiting for them to come and say, hey, this is what... People want answers. Like the
Norfolk Southern Rail people were going in.
They were going to go in and answer the questions of the community, because the community, they need answers.
Yeah.
And they did not go because of the threat of physical threat.
An angry mob was going to come after them and kill them.
They thought it was going to be like an angry mob, and the people at the town hall, they were there without representatives from the railway company. They wanted answers for potential long-term exposure to the chemicals and everything of the derailment, the health dangers, the animals, the wildlife, everything. And they just were waiting. Nobody came.
Honestly, I wouldn't want the Norfolk South Railway people. I don't want answers from them for that. I don't want answers like, well, what happened? What can you do in the future to fix it? But it is what it is. I'd want the EPA out there. I'd want the doctors that deal with chemical reactions to lungs. I'd want them to be there. I don't care about the railway people. I mean, yeah, they caused this. But at the same time, it was obviously like not they didn't intentionally do this.
No, they didn't intentionally
do this.
Their
lack of the hot box team and all of that stuff and overdoing. So they did.
Seems like it could have been prevented.
It definitely could have been prevented, but I wouldn't want them to answer any of those questions anyways. I would want to talk to a doctor.
Yeah, well, that's why they did donate money to the Red Cross. Yeah. They did provide, breathing apparatus for the fire department.
I think that they're handling it pretty. I think they're handling it pretty well. Honestly, they're taking care of it. They're cleaning up their mess. They're not trying to place blame or anything. They're just taking. What's the word? Responsibility, accountability. Yeah. So the theory, the conspiracy theory, along with this, is that this was done on purpose, and it is because they were putting a plastic company that was owned by Shell Oil. They were putting right in Palestine area, and a lot of people were against it, including the EPA, because of all of the plastic. I mean, having any manufacturing place, the stuff in the air, or even our shop, I have an air filtration in my office for when the kids were like newborns and stuff. Oh yeah. So then that way it wouldn't fuck them up, Yeah. And that's just like on a small scale when you're having a big ass machine plant, So
they didn't want it to be there.
They didn't, but they couldn't deny the benefit that would outweigh the environmental damage. Because the benefit would be all the economy boosting, everybody having jobs, this big power plant.
Sure, yeah, more jobs for everyone.
Jobs, just like the automobile plants. If you remember that area, Michigan, Detroit, all that area in Ohio had all the that's where Ford was, that's where Chevrolet was, all the car manufacturers were there, and that was a booming area. And then they closed down all the plants 50 years ago and moved to like Mexico, China, Japan, whatever, outsourced everything. And all these plants are gone, and all of a sudden now Detroit is not a rich economic city.
Oh, not at all.
It's totally run down, and
well, they kind of put the people in that position by eliminating those jobs and displaced a lot of people financially. Hardships.
They're saying that maybe somebody did this to kind of be like, well, what's the difference? You were okay with the plastic company being there and fucking up the environment, and now you care that, I mean, you were, so what's up? So there is a conspiracy with that. It's not fully drawn out yet.
No, it's just they're touching on it.
Yeah, like, hey,
you know,
did you like this just happened? I'm not sure who they're referencing that would have done that would have caused the accident, but in the coming weeks we'll find out more, and I'm sure that there'll be placed blame on somebody.
Oh yeah, this is just the latest that we have as of the 22nd,
and that's for the Ohio.
This is gonna be continuously.
Oh,
we're going to learn more.
So my friend, Tyra. Hi, Tyra.
Hi.
She's from Ohio, and she's the one that had me look into this.
Does she reside in Ohio right now?
No, she's lived here for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
4 years. Probably 4 years.
So she's safe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But she still has a bunch of friends there. Like, we went to elementary school together, and then she moved out there in, like, middle school. And then she just came back, like, 4 years ago. So she went to college out there. So all of her, like, friends and everything is out there. So she was telling me that she was sending me all the information, and she's the reason why I even found out about this, because it's literally on no news.
Yeah,
until,
I mean, it is now,
but it wasn't until, like, a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, yeah. And so she had said that her friends are checking on their farm animals and trying to make sure everything is okay and all that. And she had told me to watch the movie White Noise on Netflix.
Okay.
And it is about, so it came out a few years ago, and it's about a train derailment in Ohio carrying chemicals.
And when did this movie come out?
I think it was 2019, yeah.
Wow, that's really...
I went to watch it, and me and Brad we couldn't get into it. I need to try it again, but I wanted to watch it before we recorded this, but we couldn't get into it, so I couldn't watch it. But yeah, she had said that that's exactly what it's about.
But you know what that reminds me of now that you say that? It almost sounds like this was predetermined, and maybe it is. The conspiracy could be that it is the government, because... you know how they say they create movies as like a
forewarning to get you ready,
like propaganda,
mentally get you ready for what's coming.
Like foreshadowing, is that the word?
Yeah, foreshadowing. Because even it was like 2000, I want to say like not 2011, 10. That
programming.
A movie called Super 8 came out, and it was about a train crash and kind of like the same thing. And I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what was on, what happened in it, but it was a big movie when it came out. Do you remember that?
I never watched that movie. I never watched either of those movies.
Well, no, I haven't done
now
this
I want to watch it. But
yeah, now I want to watch Super 8. I just thought of that right now.
It just reminds me of like some kind of programming, like to condition you to be like ready
okay
for this,
with
and
it.
it's okay.
Yeah, like okay with it.
And then now they're saying that the water is safe, and those animals died and those fish died, but that's just in that concentrated area. Everything else is okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do we really know?
So, yeah, I don't think that we will know. I think it's way too soon to say anything like that. There's something else going on. There's always something else going on. Follow the money. Always follow the money. So, anyways, a few days later, well, like 16 days later, another train derailed in Michigan. But luckily there was no hazardous material. I kind of already touched on that earlier. But then I wanted to say in Arizona that the truck flipped over. And this one, it was like a not tanker truck, like an oil tank truck. Yeah, so I guess like a tanker truck.
Yeah, maybe a tanker truck.
It's like a tanker truck. Well, when I think of tanker, I think of the military, like with guns
like a
and
tank.
shit. Like a tank.
Not a tank.
It's not a tanker.
It's a hazardous material silo.
Transporter.
Silo, is that the word? Silo
has corn and rice in it. I don't know. That's on farms. So anyways, liquid nitric...
Cylinder.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think of the word.
So this one happened in Tucson, and it had liquid nitric acid. And so what that is, it's yellow, red, and odorless, but it can cause irritation to the eyes and throat. And some people thought they had smelled smoke when it all went down. And everyone got evacuated. It was only like a mile radius. They got it cleaned up pretty quick. And this time, they didn't put it on fire. They just let it be. Yeah. So they let it, like, they spilt it out. They spilt it up. They undid the spill. They cleaned it up, and they contained it, and it was fine. And most people, they didn't have to evacuate. I'm sorry. They needed a shelter in place, and then they had to turn off all the ACs and heaters that blew air in from the outside.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So just, like, kind of close everything up. And they said up to 15 minutes you should be fine, but anything or more that you need to get to a doctor and be assessed.
And I did see that, too. I saw a news report on that, and it looked like a dark kind of orange, like a burnt sienna, I would call it. Or like a copper color.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it was on the ground. So you could see it on the ground and in the air. So it's kind of both. But
definitely did not look healthy.
No,
to inhale.
No, we definitely don't want to inhale that.
Near it at all.
So while I was Googling, like, the distance between Lake Huron and, like, all these different things, I saw Flint, Michigan on the map right next to everything, and I was like, holy shit. I'm looking at that, and so it's 200 miles from the Ohio, East Palestine, 50 miles from Van Buren, which is the Michigan, and then it's, like, 50 miles from Lake Huron. Like, they're all just, like, right next to each other. Everything is right next to each other. So then I'm like, well, I wonder if their water is safe. Yeah. Because it's been since 2014 they've not been able to drink their water. Right?
Yeah, I remember when that
It's been a big deal. Yeah. And like, even in 2018, I remember them being like, no, we still can't drink our water. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why can't you drink your water? Like, I get it in the beginning, but, like, still?
Yeah.
Because there's bacteria and shit. Like, figure it out, government people. Like, what the fuck is wrong? So get this. On February 13th, 2023.
So just after all this.
In the middle of all this.
Yeah, I know.
Just, like, right now. Yeah. They're like, oh, cool, your water's safe to drink now. 9 years later. And
wait, in Flint?
Yes.
The water is safe to drink now.
Now it's safe to drink, as the Ohio water is all fucked up.
It's a little suspect, in my opinion.
That's fucking weird.
That is weird.
Do you think they just forgot about Flint? And then they were like, oh, shit. We're testing the water. Let's test it over here, too. And they were like, oh, fuck, you guys. You're safe. Sorry we didn't tell you sooner. Oops.
I honestly don't see how the water would be safe, especially because everything is connected, but...
I don't fucking know. I
don't know.
When I saw the date, I was like, no fucking shit. Like, that's not right.
What are the odds, though?
Yeah,
this happened, and then...
Yeah, like, that was too much. So, anyways, I had to tell you guys about that. And I think that's it. There's a pretty long news update thingy. We had a lot of facts and a lot of things to talk about.
We had to get through it, and, it's maybe we'll have to do another update. I don't know. Today's the 22nd, so we'll see what the latest is. If anything changes significantly, I'm sure we'll report on it.
All right, and thank you for listening. And don't forget to always follow the money and...
share, like, and subscribe, and listen to us on any platform that you enjoy your podcasts.
Bye.